Back in 2020, when the pandemic was still turning the world upside down, I started driving for Uber to make ends meet. I'd been laid off from my retail job and needed money fast. The thing about rideshare gigs is, you meet all kinds of people, especially when you work late nights like I did. There were awkward encounters, drunk passengers, weird conversations, but none of that compares to what happened one Friday night in October. It was just after midnight. I just dropped someone off at a hotel near the edge of town when my app pinged with a new request. Pickup was about 6 minutes away, outside a bowling alley in a strip mall. Pretty normal stuff. The rider's name showed as Derek. I accepted and headed over. When I arrived, the area was completely silent. The bowling alley was clearly closed, the parking lot almost empty except for one guy standing alone under a flickering light. He was tall, maybe 6 feet 2 inches, wearing a gray hoodie and jeans, hands stuffed in his pockets, head tilted down like he was staring at his shoes. As I pulled up, he glanced at me but didn't wave or move. I rolled the window down. "You Derek?" I asked. He nodded slowly, walked over, and got into the back seat directly behind me. I started the trip and checked. The destination good? It was an address about 20 minutes away in a residential neighborhood I didn't recognize. "Yeah, that's right," he said in a calm, flat voice. Not slurred, not high, just off, emotionless. Still, I didn't think too much of it at the time. We drove in silence for the next 5 or 6 minutes. Every so often I glanced at him in the rearview mirror. Each time I caught him staring, not at his phone or out the window, but straight ahead, at the back of my head. Trying to break the tension, I asked, "How's your night going?" He paused, then quietly said, "Just needed to get out of there." "Out of where?" I asked. "Doesn't matter," he replied. So I didn't push it. As we got closer to the destination, I realized we were heading into a really isolated part of town. No streetlights, big lots, lots of trees, no neighbors in sight. Then, just before we arrived, he leaned forward suddenly and said, "Actually, can you pull into that driveway right there?" He pointed to a house on the right. The place looked abandoned. No lights, lawn overgrown, paint peeling off the siding. There wasn't even a car in the driveway. "This your place?" I asked. "Just pull in," he said flatly. I hesitated but followed his instructions. I stopped near the front of the house, put the car in park, and waited. He didn't get out right away. He just stared at the front door for a few seconds before saying, "Wait here." Then he got out, but instead of going to the door, he walked around the side of the house and disappeared. I sat there, staring at the dark house, every instinct in me screaming that something was wrong. The ride was still active, and I didn't want to drive off and get penalized. But I also didn't want to stick around. Something felt off. Finally, I manually ended the trip, marked it complete, and was about to reverse out of the driveway when I saw him reappear from the side of the house, walking fast toward the car. His hands were empty, but there was something in his expression, a kind of excitement mixed with anger that made my stomach turn. He pulled the back door open, got in, and said, "Take me to the other place." I kept my voice steady. "What other place?" "Just drive. I'll tell you." I shook my head. "I need you to put it in the app." He didn't say anything, just stared at me in the rearview mirror. "I can't take you unless you put it in the app," I repeated. Silence. Finally, he mumbled, "Take me back to where you picked me up." I didn't argue. I just wanted him out of the car. As I started driving, I could feel him watching me again. Every turn I took, every stop sign, the pressure of his stare never left. The hairs on my arms were standing on end. Trying to ease the tension, I joked weakly, "Rough night." "You could say that," he replied. I asked if everything was okay. He said, "Not yet." I didn't ask it anything else after that. When we got back to the bowling alley, I parked under the same flickering light. Before I could say a word, he leaned forward and asked softly, "You ever wonder how you're gonna die?" I froze, forced a laugh. Not really something I think about. He didn't laugh. He just leaned back in his seat. After a long pause, he said, "I think about it all the time." Then, without another word, he opened the door. But he didn't step out right away. He stood there, one foot still inside the car, half turned toward me. "You picked the wrong guy up tonight," he whispered. Then he shut the door and walked off into the shadows behind the building. I sat there, gripping the steering wheel, too shaken to move. Eventually, I drove home, checking my mirrors constantly, half expecting him to be following me. When I got home, I opened the app to check the ride details. And that's when I realized something was wrong. The rider name? Gone. Blank. No photo. No trip history. It was like the ride had never happened. I contacted Uber support. They told me the trip data wasn't available. Sometimes it happens, they said, if the app glitches or crashes, or if a ride is canceled mid-trip. But I know what I saw. I know he got in my car. I know he said what he said. And I know I ended that trip manually myself. I never saw that man again. And I hope I never do. But every time I get a ping from a dark parking lot, or a silent passenger sits behind me, I remember that night. I remember that feeling, that something could have gone terribly, horribly wrong. And I still wonder what he meant, and whether someday, somewhere, he found the right car.